Reports out of Iran claiming that they launched a rocket with a satellite carrier into space. Now, this move comes during nuclear talks, of course, that are going on with other world powers. Our Jerusalem correspondent Daniel Cohen has more. Dan?
The state TV report, as well as others by semi-official news agencies, didn't say when the launch was conducted, just that the rocket was carrying research equipment. It also didn't say if it made it into orbit. Here's the video of what a Defense Ministry spokesman identified as a Phoenix rocket. He said that 3 pieces of research equipment were sent up 290 miles, although we don't know if it actually reached Earth's orbit. Iran has suffered a series of setbacks in its space program in recent launches. Satellite images earlier this month suggested an Iranian launch was imminent. State TV recently offered a list of upcoming planned satellite launches for the Islamic Republic's civilian space program. Iran's paramilitary Revolutionary Guard runs its own parallel program that successfully put a satellite into orbit last year. The blastoffs have raised concern in Washington, D.C. about whether the technology used to launch satellites could advance Iran's ballistic missile development, calling on Iran to steer clear of any ballistic missile activity that could deliver nuclear weapons. The launch comes amid ongoing negotiations in Vienna over Iran's tattered nuclear deal. Iran's hardline negotiators have called 6 previous rounds of talks drafts, frustrating the other negotiators. Now back to you.
Thank you very much, Dan. And now for more on these latest developments is Trump 2016 Foreign Policy Advisory Board member Ken Timmerman, who also, Ken, I mean, you were nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize related to your work with Iran and their nuclear capabilities, amongst some other things. So I'm very glad to have you on today to be able to talk about what's going on with them and specifically the timing of this launch of these the satellite with devices attached, in conjunction with the timing of the negotiations that's going on over the Iran nuclear deal. What do you think they're up to?
Well, thanks for having me on, Heather. And that was a great report from Dan in Jerusalem. Look, the Iranians have political programs and then they have technical programs. This satellite launch program is a bit of both. On the one hand, it helps them to develop ICBMs. Clearly, it is a missile program, not just a satellite launch program. But at the same time, it is also a political program intended to send messages to the West, to the United States, and to Israel. And their message here is that we have not let up with developing these long-range ballistic missiles, because anything that can carry a satellite up to 250 miles to orbit, and that, by the way, is a good height for a low Earth orbiting satellite. Any launcher that can do that can also launch a payload to targets thousands of kilometers away, obviously including Israel.
You know, when it comes to the nuclear talks, I've heard the administration say that that's really the only area that both the United States and Russia are, you know, they have similar thinking. They're both on board with. And of course, President Biden is speaking with President Putin perhaps right now. So do you think that this will be addressed between the two of them?
I kind of doubt it. They may pay lip service to it, but the Russians have always been an enabler of Iran's ballistic missile programs. I reported on this actually for Newsmax a number of years ago. I've testified to Congress about it as well. Most of these missiles have Russian technology in them, either Russian rocket motors or guidance systems. So the Russians have a vested interest in allowing Iran to continue to develop these kind of missiles. And it's really important that we understand this. People talk about the failures of the Iranian program. They have launchers that explode, absolutely correct. The separation doesn't work correctly. The satellites don't get up into orbit. But these are not the Model Ts of satellite and missile technology. This is more like the Ford 150s. And that's what they're trying to do, is to develop a Ford 150, which will be reliable. It'll get a missile over its target as often as they want it, and with a good-sized payload.
And that was where I was going with that. And tying into Russia, also you have to talk about China when it comes to who is enabling Iran with the capability to do what they're doing.
Well, they have both solid fuel technology, which they got probably from China, and liquid fuel missiles, rockets, which they got from Russia. So there's both of those countries that are enabling them, and both have an interest. for example, these two launch sites that they have in Semnan and Shahroud, that is in the eastern part of Iran, out in the Great Salt Desert. Both of them were developed by the Chinese in the 1990s. They began doing this in the 1990s, you know, developing these sites. So both countries, Russia and China, have that vested interest in Iran's missile program.
Right. So I'm not sure why the Biden administration would say that Russia is on board with trying to push Iran to rejoin the Iran nuclear deal, because that doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Ken?
Yes, hope over experience.
Yeah. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, Heather.
You just watched Newsmax TV, America's fastest growing cable news channel, now in more than 70 million homes. You can get Newsmax TV on your cable system or check your cable guide. And if your system doesn't carry Newsmax, call them, tell them you want Newsmax TV, because we're real news for real people.